It is hour number 2. Jake Query. Well, he's talking to an IndyCar driver right now, one of the 3 rookies. Not sure whether it's Schwartzman, Foster. Not sure if it's Nolan Siegel in terms of the 3 rookies that have qualified for their first Indy 500. I happen to have a guy that's going to be starting on the inside of row number 4 and was last year's pole sitter, and a guy that's finished in the top 6 4 of 5 races so far this year. That would be Scott McLaughlin, driver of the Yellow Submarine, coming up in 5 days at the Indianapolis 500-mile race, and he joins us now. Scott, I know that in one sense you've been crazy busy, but it's also your first day out of a race car. How you feeling after 7 straight days in a race car, Scott?
I feel great, but I'm just doing the normal. My wife's dragged me to a mall, so I'm on a rainy day going to a mall. So I'm actually at Keystone right now, just hanging out. But anyway, it's been a busy week, and obviously up and down in all sorts of reasons. But we're nice to have a day off and go through a bit of the data and figure out sort of where we're sitting come carb day. And obviously I've gone to a new car now, and car feels a lot better, and not a lot better, but just as good as the last one. And I think we've got a good shot come Sunday.
Well, obviously the first things first. I know you were checked, cleared, and if the car could have been put back together, you would have gone out on Sunday afternoon. Yeah. How are you feeling first and foremost?
Great. Obviously. It was a huge bummer because I thought, we definitely had a car that could have poled again. It was super quick, and just knew we could have done that. But obviously, the place bites when it wants to, and just overstepped the mark a little bit. But the Penske crew just took their time, and we could have gone out that afternoon, but they just wanted to make sure the car was right, and for Monday practice. And it's a brand new car, amazing job by the crew. And went out yesterday and absolutely no issues, just a couple of little things that we need to iron out and fix compared to the 2 cars, and it should be just fine come carb day. We have this very unique ability these days to have a camera in cockpit, rotated, etc. So obviously we all get to go along to the ride to some degree, not to the same degree you experienced it. But the first thing that we all see is you putting your hands to your head. Was that safety measure to get them off the wheel, get them away from the side of the car? Was that, I can't believe what I just did, a combination of the two? What was that immediate moment / reaction like for you? No, you always try and brace yourself, right. In some ways. The way that it just happened, like it was a huge hit and happened so quickly that, I didn't even get a chance to brace myself. So the next best thing I could have done was just basically hold my helmet, Right. It was honestly just so instinctive that, I didn't even get a chance to brace myself. It was just how it was, and that's where my hands ended up. But it's kind of crazy how it all worked out.
All of this happens in a fraction of a second, and the reaction is 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. One of the things that from guys like you to people like me that have been around it but have never been inside of a car when it does something like that, one of the common things is that people tend to say everything slows down. Did you have that experience, or was it the opposite? You blinked and it was done?
No, I said to my wife that night and a couple other people, I'm like, it's very true. I've had a couple of big shunts in my career.
Sure.
But never sort of taken flight and whatnot, and that definitely slowed down like a ton, and that was definitely. I remember every detail of the crash to the point where I've never been in a crash where I've hit the wall and obviously the noise happens, and then all of a sudden it goes quiet because you're completely airborne, and then it comes down crashing and goes bang, So it proves how quick we're going, how much we're on the edge, and I mean we were back out there on Monday and. I was back to it, just holding it flat through turn 2. It's just what I'm made to do, and my wife understands that too.
Obviously, your issue on Sunday became a different issue for your teammates, and it's their issue they're dealing with, not you. I want to make sure I point that out. You're staying where you were going to be on the inside of row number 4. I don't want to put you on the spot in terms of asking about violations, et cetera. I'll simply phrase it this way. There's a very high standard there at Penske. My guess would be it's a challenge to some degree you dealt with during the month of May last year. Clearly, you sat on the pole, you finished 6th, your teammate won it. Kind of how was morale around the paddock, the garage, the shop a day ago?
Yeah, I think, we're all sort of taking our time to digest everything and move who we need to move, but at the same time, I'm just driving, man. I just get in, do my job, and get on with it. And that's all I'm here for.
All right, Scott McLaughlin, our guest. Again, Greg Rakestraw in for Jake Query, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Scott Boy, joining us on the Rhinegeist Brewing Hotline. A couple of things one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I'll kind of like a variation of that. Obviously now you've been a part of the series on a full-time basis since 2021. This will be your fifth Indy 500, and for those that do not know, Scott is now an American citizen. So first of all, congratulations on
Thanks.
that. That happened in the very recent past. At what point in time growing up in New Zealand was like the IndyCar series and running an Indy 500? When did that become kind of a tangible goal for you?
Look, I think you'd have to say when Dixon won his first one in 2008, I probably, started taking a lot more of a chance, a lot more of a look at it and seeing what IndyCar was all about. But my ultimate goal was always supercars. My mum and dad always had supercars is what the race series I raced at in Australia was, but mum and dad always had an infatuation with America, and so I started taking a keen interest in NASCAR and IndyCar, and with the opportunity ever to be here. And then I met Roger Penske and raced for him down there, and he gave me the chance to come over. And I've loved this race ever since I attended actually the 100th running of the 500 as a spectator, and I was just in the bleachers. And it's kind of crazy now that I'm on the other side of what's probably going to be a sold out crowd. So it's awesome.
All right, so I'm glad you brought that up. So literally the last time that it happened, as you just alluded to, was 9 years ago. Where were your seats? And how many holy blank moments did you have that day 9 years ago when you're like, there's like 350,000 people around me at this rate? What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, we were middle of turn 1 and 2, which was pretty cool. Just experiencing the pageantry and all that stuff. And I definitely wasn't sober, which was a lot of fun. So we had a blast, and it was just me and a buddy from Australia, and we popped over between races, and best thing I ever did. But it was actually the weekend I signed my contract with Roger for the Australian season. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts how it's all worked out. And little do we know, I didn't realize I'd be sort of in the race, 9 years later, as you say.
Again, Scott McLaughlin, driver of the Pennzoil number 3 for Team Penske, joining us here. Greg Rakestraw for Jake Query, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. I'm not sure there's a better way to phrase this. How big of a deal are you and Scott and Marcus and the IndyCar Series? How followed is it in New Zealand, knowing the obvious time difference that you have every time you race?
Yeah, no, it's actually, the time difference is not too bad. The times that we race at, it's actually works out around to be around 6 a.m., 7 a.m. New Zealand time. Okay. So it's actually not too bad. But yeah, it's a big deal. IndyCar's getting a huge following down there. They've got great coverage down there with the international feed. And now with obviously 3 Kiwis and 3 decent cars.
Right.
And obviously one's the greatest of all time. There's a lot of following down there. So it's really cool.
There has always been talk about doing, and Pato brought this up last year. We've talked about, all right, let's maybe have a race in Mexico. Obviously, there's always been talk about maybe Surfer's Paradise at some point in time coming back. Could there be an IndyCar race in New Zealand? What would that be like? A, is there the course for it? B, I'm sure there's the interest in it. Do you think something like that could happen in your tenure as an IndyCar driver?
I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, what I would do to race down in Australia and New Zealand with these cars, I would love that. But I think at the same time, it's all it's a huge investment to go down under there with all the cars and stuff. But I know for a fact that the payoff for us doing that would be incredible. I think it would be really beneficial. But I think it could easily work down there again, and I think New Zealand would get around it. I imagine if you went to Australia, I truly believe there would be, close to 300,000 across the weekend. So it'd be a huge event, very similar to say you see Long Beach or outside the 500.
So Scotty, I had planned on asking you about how you kind of wanted to be an IndyCar driver. What I had not planned on until I got tipped off about this You're a Knicks fan, is that correct?
Yes, I am. I've been a huge Knicks fan since I was about 2 years old. My mum and dad went to New York when I was a kid. They brought me back a jersey, and obviously this is the '90s era of the Knicks and all that stuff. And yeah, I've been in love with the team, and then I eventually married a girl from New York, which made it even more crazy. And yeah, now we're in this rematch from the late '90s or whatever, with the Pacers. So it's an unpopular opinion to have here in Indiana right now, but everyone's been pretty nice about it.
Listen, I was going to say, I don't want to be like the Knicks fans throwing like the trash bags on the Pacers fan that we talked about over the course. I'm trying to be bigger than that, and the reason you gave is just a good one. So now I guess the follow-up question is this. You're going to be pretty exhausted, win or lose, coming up on Sunday. Are you planning to go to game number 3, Pacers-Knicks at Gainbridge Fieldhouse?
I've asked for tickets, but the best way I can do that is if I win the race. I believe that there's a situation where they take the winner there, so that just works out perfect for me. I'm just a bit worried if I walk in there with the Borg and I've got a full kit of Knicks gear on, I'm probably going to be the first guy that's been booed in Indiana. So anyway, look, let's just get there first. But it's like I said, everyone's been pretty respectful with everything. We've had some really good banter, and I'm just excited for the series. I think it's going to be 2 great matchups, 2 great teams. The Pacers play such a fast basketball game, and then you've got the Knicks who are just, obviously Tibbs just runs them out like crazy. So it's going to be interesting how they combat all that, both the teams. But yeah, I'm excited for it.
Listen, this is where the difference in swear words pays off for us. Will Power's talked about this in years gone by. I can drop a full kit wanker on American radio and nobody knows the difference. That I'd have to give that to Scott if that's the way he showed up on Sunday. All right, before I let you go, because you've been so gracious with your time, and frankly, we're going to get Will Power coming up in a couple of minutes. As you talked about, you're doing like the normal husband stuff. You're spending time with the wife after 7 straight days in the race car. Before you get to Carb Day on Friday, what are these next 3 days like for you?
Look, not too crazy. We'll do a community day tomorrow, so we go to a couple of elementary schools and see some kids, which is cool. Always a good feeling there. And then we head to media day on the Thursday, and then Friday is obviously Carb Day. So it's our final 2 hours in the car, which is probably one of the most important sessions before the race. And then obviously the parade Saturday, which is amazing, and then Sunday race day. So a lot of it's just prep, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure we're in a good spot. And I think we're in a plenty good spot to have a crack at this.
I think there's no doubt from the inside of road number 4. Scott, thank you so much for the time. I know the last couple of days have been a whirlwind for a multitude of reasons. I appreciate you carving out some time with us. Best of luck to you early Sunday, like say up until about 8 o'clock. After that, no good luck to you at all with your team on Sunday night. Thank you, Scotty.
I respect it. Thank you very much. Cheers.
You got Scott McLaughlin, driver of the number 3, the yellow submarine. He and the Thirsty Threes going for an Indy 500 championship. Obviously would be a 21st for Roger Penske.